Hi, it's Michael. I'm going to share a little bit about the tools that's necessary to turn your board into a drop-through. There's a few things that are important before you begin. This clip, I'm going to talk about some concerns you should have before you convert your board, and then I'll briefly go over the tools that you'll need. From a lot of the decks that I convert that for my custom builds, I like a 9-ply Canadian hard rock maple, because depending on the wheels I use, and then I'm going to weaken the structure with the drop through a 9-ply, and you want to look at the neck width too. You don't want to end up with anything shorter than like 4.5 inches, let's say. But you also need to decide where your wheelbase is going to be, because after you make the drop through, it's pretty difficult. I mean, there's a bracket from Riptide that can give you a little extra structure strength, but it would be wise to choose where you want the drop through, obviously, before you begin. Another thing to consider is what you're going to use the board for. Is it going to be just an LDP, long distance push board, long distance push or pump, or a free ride board, or are you going to use it for both? Personally, most of the boards I make are for free ride and long distance pushing. And I'll show you this board converted right here. The brand is inconsequential, but I've turned the micro drop sector 9 board into a double drop. And I've also, with this setup, I've wedged the trucks and raised them for my preferred, setup. Here's another board that's symmetrical. It's the same on both sides. I'm showing you this to show you the difference between this project that I'm working on right now for a long distance LDP race board. Is I wanted to keep more of the transition up front, because that's where my foot was coming closest to the wheels when I get tired doing 10-15 miles. I don't want my foot to tag the wheel if I overshoot it when I'm kicking in one of my 4 kick positions. So it was my preference to move, cut out the wheel wells in the back to keep as much as of the drop in the design. And the thing of it is too is, again, you have to decide what wheels, you have to decide what is your favorite wheelbase from numerous boards you've ridden, and then and go from there. But this one, I'm getting ready to put a drop through after I finish this little video clip here, but I've converted already the back into a drop through. Now I'm just going to briefly go over the tools. I'll have more hands-on video on all the steps. I'm going to post those on a website I have for a ministry I run. Oh, if anyone's interested, it's JesusRulesMinistry.com. And I'm putting together an outreach for kids, and also I give away a book for free. Okay, so let's get on with what tools you need. Starting with, you need a template. You can make your own out of plexiglass and get dimensions off the internet for the dimensions you need, and print it out. And there's all kinds of ways, but the easiest way for me to just get going when I first started doing this was to get use a bracket from Riptide Sports. They probably didn't intend for this to be used for my purpose, but it works great. I drilled out countersunk so I could run the router smoothly over the surface with the bearing on my trim bit on the inside. This is a Riptide 102. They have phenomenal products. So after you have your template, whether you buy it from Riptide or you've made one out of plexiglass, and obviously, with this you can modify the plate how you want it. You can get plexiglass at Home Depot. All right, so the first step after you really need to outline where you're gonna need to drill, so that's why I went with the template first. And the next thing you want to do is drill some pilot holes for your jigsaw. I use titanium bits. They're nice and sharp. Be sure not to push through too hard, because the last thing you want is the wood to splinter all out. So make sure your bits are sharp and that you're going to drill through. And you don't need to use big bits because it's not necessary. The jigsaw that you want to use, you want it to have a lot of teeth and thin so that it can turn and maneuver. And what you're trying to do is you want to cut out the bulk of the inside of where you're going to use the trim router. This is a budget model trim router, but it works great because it's really about the bit. I bought this one, Drill Master, at Harbor Freight. An important thing to mention, I went through a few bits trying to figure something that would trim really well. And you want a triple flute is best, but at your local hardware store they only have a double flute with the bearing on top. An easy mistake to make is to get a triple flute, but then the bearing will be on the bottom. You want the bearing to be on the side of the trim router, because you're going to actually run across the flat surface, but the bearing is going to ride inside of your template. The other thing I want to mention is make sure that you don't try to cut it too perfect. You have 9 layers of ply. If you cut 8 really clean, that'll work for you, because you want the bearing to roll on the template smoothly. So I leave a little bit of clearance, and then so there may be like a little bit of 1 ply left, and then I clean it up with a couple of Dremel tool bits. For me, the bigger one seems to just be fine, but sometimes I get a little particular and I trim it up with the smaller bit. Dremel, you can replace these, the sandpaper is little, you loosen the screw right here and you can pop on replacement. And so again, I just want to remind you of the key factors. You want to know your wheelbase, you want to know the structure of your wood, you want to know the composite of your wood. If I was going to do fiberglass or something like that, or there's a lot of composite decks out there, know the material you're cutting through. Be careful to use gloves and a mask, an air mask, if you're going through something that's has a layer of carbon fiber. You can buy carbon fiber. You can restructure it. These are details, but what I'm trying to just show is how to make the drop through part. But at the same time, I want you to be aware of knowing your wood, knowing the material you're working with, knowing the wheel size you're going to use, knowing if you want to keep how much of the drop you want to keep in the front. Do you want to make it symmetrical? I could go on, but I think that kind of summarizes the basics of what you need. Sharp drill bit, a jigsaw with a lot of teeth and thin so you can turn around, a trim router that fits. I chose a 1/4 inch shank. I didn't need no big heavy duty one, and my dropouts are just turning out really clean. So thanks for stopping in. Like I said, this is Michael from San Diego Skateboard Longboard Race Club. If you would like to, if you're short on cash, I can always swap out. I'll do it for you. You can trade me a deck that you're not using. I can use that for the ministry, or swap out some wheels. But my advice, I'll be glad to give you any advice. You can get in touch with me through my Facebook or through my website. And yeah, I'll be glad to talk to you if you want to just talk in person. I usually every week do a meetup down at the Bay. I'm going to different locations, and I'll be glad to help you. All right, this is Michael. I'm signing off, and I hope this helps you a little bit.